I'm calling back to order this meeting of the Sacramento City Unified School District Board of Education. Item 4.0, the broadcast statement, which will be read by our student member, Nguyen.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being recorded in its entirety and will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air Sunday, March 18th at 9 a.m. and Monday, March 19th at noon, and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. We welcome members of the audience to address the board. Please complete a speaker form located in the back of the community room and give them to our communications representative along with any handouts that you may have for the board prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Please limit comments during public comment to items that are not on the agenda. If you do comment on an item that is on the agenda, we will ask that you please defer your comments until your item comes up on the agenda. Please also turn off your cell phones or place them on silent or vibrate. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Board Member Nguyen. That was item 4.1. Item 4.2, the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight's Pledge of Allegiance will be read by the Sutter Middle School girls basketball team. Yay! Member Cochran will proudly present a certificate to you following the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wait, stay. Go ahead and step here.
Member Ryan?
Yes, please.
So stay there, girls. I have something I'd like to read about this team, and it's very important. So a team of top basketball players is a machine made of sweat, tears, and guts. It's a dance of ball, balance, battles, breath, and bones. And for 16 years, the girls at Sutter Middle School have not failed to have the last word on the court with a scoreboard that lights up in their favor. They are champions of the city, queens, royalty, with that certain godlike ability to swoosh an 8 pounds per square inch ball through the hoop again, again, and again. With a legacy in the balance, this year's team went over the top. Not only did they win the city championship, they also won every postseason tournament they entered. Rich Hironaka, Mr. Hironaka? A 20-year veteran coach emphasized the teamwork. We set team goals, how we would meet those goals, and why it would be worth it. All the players bought in and signed a goal pledge. We went through typical group development, dynamics, forming, storming, norming, and performing. At this age, I try to keep things fun and interesting. We would do team building exercises, eat pizza, and have Taco Tuesdays. Here are some impressive statistics for those of you who like basketball statistics. Check this out. The team averaged 50.3 points per game while holding opponents to less than 30 points per game, while shooting 40% from two-point range and 27% from three-point. These are girls who have kept a legacy of 16 years as league championships in Sacramento City. Congratulations to the girls of Sutter. And if you would like maybe to pick one team member to say a few words, it would be more than welcome.
I like to say that this year was a great year. I know that there are going to be a lot more years to come and that we're always going to win, hopefully. And I'm thankful for my teammates. I'm really going to miss them this year, and I thank each and every one of them for coming out to try out. Some of them thought they weren't going to make it, but I had faith in them.
Hey. Board Member Cochran, your introduction of the students was so eloquent. I hope you provide them with a copy of that. It's beautiful. Board Member Cochran is going to present the team with the certificate, and we're going to get copies for each of you in recognition of your wonderful achievement. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Let's all give them a round of applause. Do not do money errors. I don't photobomb.
2, 3.
Oh God. He photobombs everything.
We're recruiting him from McClatchy, too.
Are you? Thank you. Item 5.0, announcement of action taken in closed session.
Yes, Madam President, by a vote of 6-0 with Second Vice President Menick absent, the board approved 2 special education case settlements identified as OAH case number 2017-090138 and 2017-09969. That concludes the announcements out of closed session, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Item 6.0, agenda adoption. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. Wonderful. Item 7.0, special presentation. Before we move to 7.1 and 7.2, our resolutions in recognition of Women's History Month and also in recognition in the memory of Cesar Chavez, we are going to take the opportunity, as March has been a month of movements, in particular the movement to elevate student voice through the marches that were hosted yesterday across the city, state, and country as a protest, a peaceful protest to end gun violence. We are very proud of the leadership of thousands of youth right here in Sacramento City Unified School District, and have, as board members and district staff, stood in solidarity with these remarkable youth leaders exercising the power of their voice in peaceful protest. So tonight we are going to take an opportunity to spend the next 2 minutes and I think 48 seconds viewing a video of that day of protest, our march with students.
Today, we stand in solidarity with the students of Parkland and the demands that they have made on our nation in order to create safer schools and communities. Our silence today speaks louder than any words ever can. Our silence represents those that have been lost to absolutely unnecessary violence. It is not too much to ask, or even a deeply political or divisive question, to ask for our schools to be safe. Students every day come to get an education, but instead are faced with threats and fear of violence on their campus. Today, we make the demand that that fear ends. We make the demand that we institute reasonable gun laws that ban assault rifles, that ban bump stock, raise the age limit for who can buy weapons, and create reasonable background check standards so that those who are dangerous with firearms are not in possession of them. Voting for elected officials that will create and demand the demands that we are making today is the best way to realize this movement. I will leave you with this. Saturday, March 24th, is the March for Our Lives, from Crocker Park to the Capitol. Please come out and continue this message across the nation. We are Sacramento. We are the capital of one of the biggest states in the Union. Use that power to make demands for your safety. Today, we stand in solidarity with the students of Parkland.
I'm starting over again. That was beautiful. I want to thank the communications team for putting that together. I believe that Superintendent Aguilar wanted to say a few words.
Thank you, President Ryan. I understand that there's no superintendent's update this board meeting, but I did want to just express how proud we are, and I think I can speak for everyone here. Throughout the entire district, our students were able to demonstrate how to participate in a civic action and still maintain a safe learning environment. And we hope that all of our students, kindergarten through 12th grade, are able to appreciate the significance of having engaged in that civic action throughout the district. And we appreciate everyone's support, including board members as well, who were out there with our students.
And I echo our support for our incredible students throughout the district and want to thank each and every board member who made time to stand alongside those students in lifting up their voices. With that, we're moving on to item 7.1, approving resolution 2998 in recognition of National Women's History Month. I will not read the entire resolution. I do want to say, as I said in the last board meeting, that for me it is so incredibly important that the young women in our district see women that have reflected their experience, their journey, and are in leadership at every level, encouraging them to reach for their full potential. History is her story, and we quite often forget the remarkable contributions that women have made to every facet of society. I was looking at our board website and even charged some of the staff with looking at our board leadership, and we don't know who the first board female president was. We believe it might have been an incredible long-term board member, Genevieve Didion, but we aren't certain because that has not been captured anywhere. And so this is so true and reflective of society at large that we quite often do not know the women who have first stepped into positions. But I am very proud to serve on a female majority board and to represent a district that does see the transformative power of women's voice and encourages women and girls to reach for that full potential. And so with that, I will read a few pieces of 2998 and ask for a motion to adopt the resolution. In recognition of National Women's History Month, whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to our nation and community in countless recorded and unrecorded ways, whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social roles in every sphere of life, by constituting a significant portion of the labor workforce inside and outside of the home. American women have played a unique role throughout history in the nation by providing the majority of volunteer labor force in the nation, where we have been particularly important in the establishment of charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation, whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Sacramento City Unified School District Board of Education that March is designated as Women's History Month. The superintendent is called to observe and highlight March as Women's History Month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities throughout the district. And I'm going to ask for a board motion.
So moved.
We have a second. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Wonderful. The motion carries. On that theme, we are moving on to item 7.2, which will be presented by board member Mai Vang to approve resolution 2999 in recognition of the life and contributions of Cesar Chavez.
So tonight, I have the honor of reading a resolution that our board will be voting on tonight in recognition of the life and memory of Cesar Chavez. I know that many of our neighborhood schools in our district will be participating in either a day of service or holding a celebration event at their school. In particular, I know it's not school board members report out, but I want to share that Cesar Chavez in Area 5 will be holding an event next Friday from 1:30 to 4 to commemorate the incredible legacy of Cesar Chavez. And I want to encourage community members and also my fellow board members to attend our event or participate with any of our local neighborhood schools that's holding a day of service. I'm not going to read the entire resolution and just a few of the whereas. So, whereas Cesar Chavez was a heroic figure of the 20th century who led a movement dedicated to improving the lives of farm laborers. Whereas Cesar Chavez is a recognized national leader in the fight for civil rights and meaningful social change by peaceful means for Latinos and all who suffer from injustice and discrimination. And whereas school and community leaders today draw upon the example of Cesar Chavez as they coalesce around the cry for protection and leadership being heard throughout the district and nation around immigration concerns. Whereas the annual Cesar Chavez Day of Service, which takes place on March 31st, his birthday, was created for community members to promote service to the communities of California in honor of the life and work of Cesar Chavez. Therefore, let it be resolved that the Board of Education of the Sacramento City Unified School District hereby recognizes the dedication and perseverance of the many current community organizers tirelessly working to increase self-determination and self-empowerment among immigrant communities throughout the district. If possible, President Ryan, I would also like to make a request from the dais. If we could have staff track how many schools are engaged in Day of Service for Cesar Chavez so that we can have a better idea next year on how many schools actually participating.
So I think that's a wonderful request, and I will have the superintendent and staff follow up on that request. Thank you, Board Member Vang.
Thank you.
With that, we'll take a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Second, student preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Wonderful. The motion carries. Item 8.0, public comment.
We have 4 public comments. If you could please line up in order. First is Nikki Milevsky, followed by Tom McElhaney, Danica Carlos, Christina Jordan, and Christopher Latuo.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent. I'm Nikki Milevsky, first vice president of the Sacramento City Teachers Association. Tonight, I'm standing in for SCTA President David Fisher. On behalf of SCTA, we want to express our strong appreciation for our students and those across the country who participated in yesterday's National School Walkout. We hope the debate about how to make our schools safer has finally reached a tipping point in response to the inspiring activism of our students. We also want to express to this board our appreciation for being a progressive voice on this issue, in passing a strong resolution at the last meeting, and the progressive stance the district took regarding those who participated in the walkout. But just as when the district passed the Safe Haven resolution, the hard part is not in passing the resolution, but in actually implementing the ideals and translating them into actual policies and practical measures that give them real meaning. We also are pleased that we will finally have adopted an ELA/ELD curriculum. I look forward to working with the academic office to develop true measurements of student progress that will be fully embedded into that new curriculum. We are concerned that the budget continues its trend as demonstrated in the second interim budget of increasing the number of administrators at 3 times the rate it increases certificated staff. In this new budget, it shows 18 new administrator positions this year alone. Now that the district's enrollment is stable or increasing, we need to continue to lower class sizes and provide additional professional supports for students. The district also needs to cease making significant changes like the restructuring of Father Keith B. Kenny School without engaging its community that will be impacted significantly by this change. To close, we continue to make progress on the student recruitment front. The Chief Communications Officer and the Communications Department did a great job on the recruitment video that includes several of SCTA's most dynamic and energetic educators, inviting potential colleagues to join us here in Sac City. We are glad that the significant improvements negotiated in our last contract are making it substantially easier to recruit and retain educators to reflect the diversity of our district. Thank you for your time tonight.
Mr. Superintendent, President Ryan, board members, Mr. Browning, Mr. Barrios, Ms. McCarn. I'm Tom McElhenney. I teach character and scene at Burbank High School, and yesterday I took my students to the Clara campus to watch the Sacramento Ballet rehearse for its upcoming performances. The former Fremont Adult School campus now houses a number of arts groups and serves as a gathering place. I'm here tonight simply because some of my board members aren't happy with the deal that was struck that brought Clara to that campus. I understand our board's job is to make hard decisions about money and our mission to educate. Some of my board members didn't want to see income lost with the elegant wave of a dancer's hand. The good news is that the arts workers there understand the solemnity of their deal, and they're working hard to uphold their end of the bargain. The good news is that the supple backs of the arts workers there are bending elegantly to their task. The good news is that when 20 ballerinas simultaneously flicked their pointe shoes into that first position in the rehearsal yesterday, my students gasped. When a high-flying male dancer suffered a small abrasion, ballerinas holding paper towels appeared as if it had been choreographed, and my students saw the ballet as a living organism. They heard the ballet rehearse to a tape of an audience roaring its approval of the dancers. The good news is that my students were busy applauding on their own. In the musical play, a chorus line, a lyric reads, "Everything was beautiful at the ballet. Raise your arms, and someone's always there." The good news is that my students heard Chris, a solid lecturer and a stellar dancer, explain to my male students that gentlemen don't let their ladies fall. They're chivalrous. The lady shall not touch the floor, and if it happens, it's always the gentleman's fault. The lessons my students learned may take years to understand, but the lessons were elegance itself. Has the lease ruined the budget? I don't know, but I can tell you that a boy who went to the ballet demonstration in the Burbank cafeteria last week, this week saw fit in class to interrupt my hunched-over remarks in the class to say, "Mr. McElhenney, posture." Board members, Clara has ruined my students' idea that their world ends at Fruit Ridge Road. The board members who knew good things were going to happen have my thanks and admiration. But to all of you, for your dedication to unpleasant tasks, I thank you, and you should know that our students' horizons are expanding. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As a proud board member of Clara, I am thrilled to be able to support this initiative. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Aguilar, President Ryan. My name is Donisha Carlos. I am a parent advocate. I have been for some 20 plus years. My children are grown. My son was a student at Sacramento Charter High School. And I'm here as a stakeholder, as a former parent of students in this district, and really here for parents, not only in this district, but across the country. I am imploring this board to take a more active role in ensuring that parents have active participation in the schools that their children attend, that they are asked to advise on, asked to participate, not to make feel as if they are not welcome when they enter the halls of the schools that their students attend. It is important not only for the city and county of Sacramento to understand that, but for school districts across the country to understand that schools only operate well when parents and families and communities are engaging together. I just left the internship signups, and I get that it's raining and the weather is, a little bad, but the turnout saddened me. And more specifically, when we look at parent engagement, we need to look at parent engagement of children in underrepresented and underserved communities. They are often left behind in the classroom, but also when it comes to parent engagement, they are not actively sought out. So I am asking, as someone who has a stake still in this community, for the board to take a more active role in making sure and ensuring that parents are engaged.
Ms. Carlos, before you leave today, can you leave your new contact information with us? We're going to be having a community meeting on this subject next week, and we would love to include you in it. And I want to thank you for your lifetime of advocacy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I just received a note that we have some additional public comments, so I want to make sure that we're mindful of the 2-minute time limit. Thank you.
Good evening. Hi. My name is Christina Jordan. I'm a librarian at Kit Carson International Academy. I'm here as an example of a lucky librarian. My principal, Mr. Santiago Chapa, has continued the tradition of funding my school's library. And because of that, I'm able to read through hundreds of book reviews and find books and curate the collection that suits the students at my school. In addition to that, I'm able to provide information literacy lessons to all the students. In fact, part of Sac City's library mission statement is to provide instruction and equitable access to meet the needs of all of our patrons. And so I certainly noticed the focus on equity and access from our new superintendent this year. These values are my values, and while I understand the broad scope of the district's goals, my concern is more focused. I am from one of the fortunate schools in our district, but I am really here on behalf of all of the schools in our district that are not so lucky. I'm here because the students, for example, at Keith Buchanan do not have a library media teacher devoted to teaching them research and inquiry, how to use the internet or social media safely and responsibly. Students who come to Kit Carson from Mark Twain have not been taught how to use a catalog to find fun books or to find research materials or to even know the different types of resources that are available to them. And additionally, there are students at West Campus who do not have a teacher librarian to show them how to use the Gale database that this district has made available for them. And nor do they have anyone there showing their counselors, teachers, or students how to access the free study guides for the SAT and whatnot that are available to them. And so I am here really just to implore you to consider any way that you can to make equity and access available for all of our students and all of our schools.
Thank you so much. I know that the superintendent and board share that goal. Our next public comment.
Thank you. So we're all here to speak about the same thing. So good evening, Superintendent Aguilar and President Ryan and the rest of the school board members. My name is Christopher Latino, and I'm a teacher at Hiram Johnson High School. I'm here today to offer some frontline information in regards to increasing student success in high school. This past summer was my first summer working with the Summer of Service program at Hiram Johnson. I was very fortunate to be part of the staff and this unique concept of building a much-needed bridge between middle school and high school. Over the past 14 years working in the Sac City Unified School District, 5 years at McClatchy, and now 9 years at Hiram Johnson, I've seen many programs come and go. When I just recently received notice that the SOS program was not going to be funded this summer, it was very disappointing to hear, and I felt obligated to speak out. SOS has been the single most proactive program designed to foster success that I have witnessed in all my time in the district. Not only are the incoming freshmen being offered guidance and making real tangible connections with upperclassmen and staff, but the upperclassmen are sharing their experience and providing a roadmap to navigate the daunting high school experience. In an already jam-packed scholastic schedule, 225 credits in 4 years to be exact, the SOS program offers students 5 credits of elective credit in a time generally reserved for credit recovery. These students are learning to be socially responsible, advocate for action, and learning how to do project-based learning techniques. It's one thing to hear my personal testimony, but it's another thing to hear data that supports my original point of increasing student success in high school. This past summer, SOS had 32 incoming 9th graders and 38 upperclassmen participating in the program, and they all attend Hiram Johnson. These 70 Hiram Johnson students who lasted all 6 weeks in the program and are still current Hiram Johnson students have an average GPA of 2.86. What is even more telling is the fact that the SOS freshmen outperformed academically their Hiram Johnson peers who did not participate in the program. SOS freshmen have an average first semester GPA of 2.54, whereas their Hiram Johnson counterparts had an average GPA of 2.16. In closing, let's continue to invest in programs that try to provide equitable access and facilitate success as much as you can. Please fund the Summer of Service program throughout the district and continue to invest in our students.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. Happy Thursday. My name is Emily Belko. I am the Assets Program Manager at Hiram Johnson. I wanted to start by just saying thank you to the board and to the superintendent for the work that you do and always being advocates and supporters of after school and enrichment programming for our students and project-based learning. And we're looking forward to hear about the 21st Century Grant next month. So I just want to say thank you for making the decision to actually be funding a Summer of Service program this year. I think it's a really, really fantastic opportunity for our students, and we have data to back it up. And everything that we do is in line with the superintendent's vision and mission for this school district. I had a couple of questions that Olivia also has questions about, but we're looking at wondering kind of what the timeline is for rolling out the new plan for Summer of Service and what it's going to look like, because we're going to have to start telling students that it is coming back, that we're going to be recruiting, and that we'd like to see full classrooms. And also wondering if students will be invited to sit in on these planning processes. They have so much to share, and I'd just like to be able to see what they take away from these programs and have them be able to implement it year after year to make it better and better and better for their peers. So thank you for your time.
If we can get your contact information to Nathaniel Browning, we'll make sure we get the answers to your questions and follow up. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Olivia Hernandez. I attend Hiram Johnson High School, and I want to share my experience with the SOS program. Moving on into freshman year was actually very easy for me due to the summer program. I got to know the campus a lot better. I met so many new students, and all the activities we'd done had helped me just basically get into high school a little bit better. I learned about the A through G requirements, which I had not in middle school, and it helped me get on a better path than I'm on now.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come with us tonight.
We have 4 more speakers. If you could line up in order, please. Katia Ponce, Alma Lopez, Kevin Hill, and last speaker, Christopher Wallace.
If we can have the clock reset. Thank you.
My name is Kevin Hill, and I attend Luther Burbank High School, and I'm a senior. And I'm here with a concern about a truancy sweep, because on February 16th, me and another student were caught in a truancy sweep, and there's 2 undercover cops in there. They had us sign like a document paper saying like something about gang prevention, but they didn't say anything about gangs. And then they kept asking us if we were in gangs, and we didn't understand what was going on. And then I figured out that I was on a document. It was like my name and a list of other students that were like caught in this truancy sweep. and like they said, put us as like gang members, but not like what is it called, like affiliated with gangs, and
What school was this at?
Luther Burbank.
At Luther Burbank. Okay, thank you.
And I felt like unsafe because like I have friends who are like undocumented and that can affect their life. And that's it.
Thank you very much. We have Board Member Vang has already brought this issue to our attention, and we're looking into it.
Good afternoon. My name is Katia Ponce. I am a sophomore attending Luther Burbank High School as well as Kevin. And as a student, I feel as if these sweeps are helpful, but to maintain these students in schools, but I feel like it's hurting us more than helping us. I know of DACA recipients who were swept and their names were taken down by the police departments, which affects them and their families could be at risk and puts them at stake. I feel as if these sweeps need to be stopped. We don't need the police department involved with these sweeps. That's what we have monitors for. We need more people like Mr. Campos and Alma, who are also a Brown Issues mentor and actually checks in and collaborates with the students and helps them serve as a mentor.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, superintendent. My name is Alma Lopez. I'm the parent advisor at Luther Burbank High School and also serve as a Brown Issues mentor. And I learned about the truancy sweeps because Kevin brought it to my attention. He had a lot of questions. And his main question was, I know it was my bad, I was not in class, but why did they have me sign a document that said gang prevention? And so I was inquiring more about the policy, wanting to know which other students were swept, just to have answers for the parents. And I still don't truly understand the policy behind it. And I did inquire and spoke to Andrew Pham, and he provided me a list of 10 students that the police department gave him. 8 of those 10 students, I know, or I spoke to their parents. Out of the 2 other students, my compañero also has worked with them. So we know those students have nothing to do or are related to any gang related affiliation. And so it's really just concerning to me, wanting to know what the policy is. Also because we do have students who are documented, and then we're also on that list. And after speaking to the mom, she was just extremely concerned because she knows that there should not be any contact with law enforcement whatsoever. And I think the fact that there's undercover cops just creates a really unsafe environment in the sense of distrust. And so I'm just trying to figure out what the policy is. It just feels like our students have more interactions with police officers than counselors. And so if there's any investment that's happening, I think it should be in a different way, where we have more counselors or more mentors at Luther Burbank High School.
Thank you so much. We'll be looking into this.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christopher Wallace, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the Chinese program at Hiram Johnson High School. I started going to Chinese class in my sophomore year for my graduation requirement due to the fact that French and Spanish classes at Hiram Johnson were filled and I had no other choice but Chinese. I was ignorant and I expected Chinese to be a very difficult class with high expectations for my performance, but Chinese was actually a very eye-opening experience for me that educated me on Chinese culture, language, and tradition enough to me to rid my fear of struggling to get through the class and creating something I look forward to going to every day. I actually enjoyed Chinese so much that when I passed Chinese 1, I promoted to Chinese 2 on instinct without even knowing that it would help me with my A through G requirements, and discovering that only encouraged me to remain much more than I already wanted to. I feel like removing Chinese would only have a negative effect on the language program, and I feel like it would be extremely detrimental to the multicultural diversity at Hiram Johnson and other schools that incorporate Chinese into their language programs. I'd like to finish this off by saying 谢谢你, which means thank you in Mandarin, for letting me speak and letting us present here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know Board Member Cochran is also looking into this. Thank you. we have any other public comments? None?
Two more, if you, with your permission. Ponce Zavala and Tristan Jenkins.
And Ponce and Tristan, we added these late, so please, if you can stay to your 2 minutes allotted.
All right. Good evening. My name is Ponce Zavala, and I would like to thank you guys for going in that direction to still help out with summer of service. And like my thoughts on it is like I'm glad it's coming back, because last year I was one of the students and I had a lot of fun, and I was going in as a sophomore, and like it was like a whole bunch of like activities and like group activities, teamwork stuff, and things that are really hands-on and that are good for the community. We also helped out with the community. There was like one or two classrooms, depending on what you had, what elective you chose. You guys would go and help out the, some of them went and helped out the homeless. Some of us, we went to St. John's Community Center and helped out there. We worked in the kitchen, me being one of those. And I'd like to say thank you. And then, but I also have a question. Why, like, what's the future SOS going to look like?
So we had a student earlier with some questions as well. We're going to have Nathaniel Browning, our board special assistant, talk with you after your public comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tristan Jenkins. I'm the expanding programming coordinator at Health Professions High School. So I also am throwing in my voice as a support behind the Summer of Service program. I've worked with Summer of Service as a facilitator and as running a program of my own for the past 5 summers now. And it's pretty much become a mainstay of our program when it comes to recruiting for the after school and before school programs at our high school level. I see a lot of my students who have come through and gone and participated for multiple years, including Chris, who actually just presented in the previous comment. But a lot of these students are showing constantly better grades, better attendance, improved behavior over the years. And it's programs like this, enrichment programs, in addition to the academic support that gives them a chance like this. So I just want to, again, throw my support and make sure that enrichment doesn't get lost in the transition, in lining with what the superintendent is looking for with academic recovery, and making sure that this stays a part of our programs.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Okay. So we have no further public comment. Moving on to item 9.0, Board Workshop, Strategic Plan, and Other Initiatives. Item 9.1, considering Charter Resolution 2993 or 2994, renewal of charter petition for Aspire Capitol Heights Academy.
Good evening, Board President Ryan, esteemed board members, and Superintendent Aguilar. This agenda item 9.1 is put forth for the board to consider Resolution 2993 and 2994 for the renewal charter petition of Aspire Capitol Heights. I am Jack Kramer, Director of Innovative Schools and Charter Oversight. With me, we have Mr. Lane Weiss. He is Aspire's area superintendent, and I do know that you are one of the deans of schools, but it's been a while since I've dropped by the school. Mercedes. Thank you. Mercedes. This presentation, it entails an overview of the charter school, the district's charter review team, minimum standard for charter renewal, and also the criteria to deny. We also have staff's analysis, and it will conclude with next steps. I'd like to note that we have items 2, 3, and 4, and they will not only serve this agenda item 9.1, but it will also serve the subsequent agenda item 9.2 as well. As a refresh, the overview for Capitol Heights Academy is the same as presented at their February 1st public hearing. Our charter review team is the same as presented for all of our previous petitions for the school year. The exception is that we have the addition of Miss Julie De Agua, and she is a coordinator from instructional technology. For agenda items 9.1 and 9.2, the driving governance is Ed Code 47605, and it really involves a two-step process. The two-step process first starts with the minimum standard for charter renewal, and in essence, you must first meet this first step before you can even go to the second step, and that entails meeting at least one of the below criteria. We'll note that the first three, they are API-based, and though they are dated, they're still in statute, so we do have to give it due consideration. However, most of our efforts are reliant upon criterion number 4, which is comparing the academic performance of the charter school to the comparison schools. In essence, what schools would those students have attended had they not attended that charter school? The second portion is the actual criteria to deny a charter renewal. And we have the governing board may not deny a renewal petition unless it makes written factual findings setting forth at least one of the 5 below. Number 1 is charter school presents an unsound educational program. 2, the charter school is demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program. 3, the renewal petition does not contain the necessary affirmation. 4, petition does not contain declaration of whether or not the charter school shall be deemed the exclusive employer. And finally, the renewal petition does not contain reasonably comprehensive descriptions of the 15 elements. With that said, it is the staff's analysis for Aspire, Capitol Heights Academy, that it does meet the minimum standards, academic performance. Number 2, there were no written factual findings regarding any of the 5 criteria to deny a charter renewal. The school did have sufficient performance in school-wide and student group academic achievement. And finally, the petition does contain reasonably comprehensive descriptions for all 15 elements. With that, the next steps, final steps, is that the governing board shall either approve Resolution 2993 to approve the renewal charter petition or approve Resolution 2994 to deny the renewal charter petition for Aspire Capitol Heights Academy. And that concludes my presentation. There is no PowerPoint from Aspire, nor is there any commentary. So with that, we can move to public comment.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment on this.
No public comment. Okay. So we're going to go to board member comments. I'm going to begin by saying this is a school that is in my area that has served some of my neighborhood kids, including one of my daughter's best friends. She is a proud scholar and, in fact, was recognized by Way Up as the Student of the year before last, for Aspire Capitol Heights Academy. I know that it is a good educational model that really works with students and families to have them reach for their college dreams. And so I'm grateful to have you in Oak Park. With that, I'm going to make a motion to approve the renewal 2993. Do I have a second? Student preferential vote?
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. No denied. Your charter is renewed. Thank you. Sorry, any abstentions? Okay, 1 abstention. Thank you. Your charter is approved. Moving on to item 9.2, considering resolution 2995 or 2996, renewal of the charter petition for Bowling Green Chicone Charter School. Actually, this is Bowling Green.
Welcome again. This agenda item 9.2 is for the board to now consider resolution 2995 and 2996 for the renewal charter petition of Bowling Green Charter School. To my left, I have Principal Sylvia Silva Torres from Bowling Green Chicone, and to the far end, Miss Susan Gibson, Principal of Bowling Green McCoy. Addressed in the prior presentation to cover both agenda item 9.1 and 9.2 were the contents, the district's review team, as well as the minimum standard and criteria for charter renewal. So with that, we'll move on to the overview of Bowling Green. Bowling Green is actually one charter comprised of 2 small learning communities. The first small learning community, we have Bowling Green Chicone, and this is also the same slide as presented at their February 1st public hearing. The second overview is for Bowling Green McCoy, and this is also the same slide from the public hearing on that same night. After thorough evaluation, it is the staff's analysis for Bowling Green Charter School that it does meet the minimum standards and academic performance criteria. There were no written factual findings for any of the 5 criteria to deny a charter renewal. Bowling Green did have sufficient performance in school-wide and student group academic achievement. And finally, the petition did contain reasonably descriptive comprehensive descriptions of all 15 elements. Once again, the final next steps is for the governing board to either approve resolution 2995 to approve the renewal charter petition, or approve resolution 2996 to deny the renewal charter petition for Bowling Green Charter School. That concludes my presentation. There is no PowerPoint for Bowling Green, and they do not have any commentary.
Okay, so we have no public comments. We do have one comment from Board Member Wu.
No, I don't have a comment so much as in the absence of Second Vice President Minnick, I was going to move the approval of Resolution 2995.
We have a motion to approve Resolution 2995 and a second. Student Board Member preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Your charter renewal is approved. We're moving on to item 9.3, approving Father Keith B. Kenny grade restructuring.
Good evening, Board President Ryan, members of the board, and Superintendent Aguilar. We're running ahead of schedule, and we're still waiting for Gail Johnson, so I'll introduce her as she arrives. Gail Johnson is the principal of Father Keith B. Kenny.
Okay.
Here, she's almost here.
We move to item 9.4 and come back. So what we're going to do is we're going to, if the board will permit me, and please, Jerry, if you can let me know procedurally, can I go to item 9.4 and return to 9.3 since we don't have all of our presenters present?
Yes, you may.
Do I need a motion?
You need a motion from the board.
Thank you, Board Member Pritchett. We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Student preferential vote, sorry. Thank you so much. Any against? No, and no abstains. Okay, so we're going to go to item 9.4, approve K-12 ELA, ELD instructional materials adoption, and we will return to item 9.3 following. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so good evening, Board President Ryan, Superintendent Aguilar, and members of the board. My name is Iris Taylor. I'm the Chief Academic Officer, and I'm joined tonight by Matt Turkey, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, Denise Leograndis, our ELA Coordinator, and Rebecca, Callahan from MLK, and Ruth Lindo from Hiram Johnson. So we're here tonight to share with you, to ask for your approval on our K-12 ELA, ELD instructional materials adoption. So tonight's presentation, we will share with you just some of the driving governance around instructional materials adoption. We'll share with you the materials that have been selected for approval, our budget and financial considerations, and then just a little bit about the process that we engaged in. So the driving governance for this materials adoption is essentially the adoption of the California ELA ELD framework, which integrates two sets of standards, the California Common Core ELA standards and the California ELA ELD standards. In addition, the state has undergone a review of a core set of materials that have been approved by the state, which were reviewed. However, as a district, we're also able to review materials outside of that state list. And then finally, we have been held governed by SUSD board policy around instructional materials, selection of instructional materials. A major guiding principle within this adoption is our equity, access, and social justice guiding principle, which outlines that our goal is that all students are given an equal opportunity to graduate with the greatest number of post-secondary choices from the widest array of options, and just recognizing the role that having standards-aligned instructional materials plays in that effort.
Within K through 6, the committee came up and would like to advance Benchmark Advance Adelante from Benchmark Education for adoption, and in grades 7 through 12, My Perspectives, which is by Pearson. The funding for this, we have $6 million, which is coming from LCFF, and $1 million coming from the state lottery funds, totaling $7 million.
Good evening. I will speak to the selection process. The district worked closely with the teachers union to form a materials review committee of 61 reviewers composed of teachers from elementary, middle, high school, GATE, dual immersion, special education, and also administrators. Over 5 days in the summer, reviewers evaluated 8 programs for K-6 and 10 programs for 7-12, narrowing to 2 each. Next were 2 6-week pilots by 47 grade K-6 teachers from 27 schools across our district and 17 grade 7-12 teachers from 9 schools across the district. Piloting teachers completed a unit assessments, analyzed student work, and evaluated the instructional materials features. For stakeholder outreach, we announced the ongoing selection process through eConnect, flyers in the principal bulletin board, a website link, and flyer distribution and discussions with parent advisory groups. Materials could be viewed at the Cerner Center or online, and we collected online and paper feedback forms. I'm now pleased to have committee member teachers speak to the recommendations.
So, excuse me, I am representing the K-6 teachers in our selection of Benchmark Advance. These materials we feel will provide our students with an engaging opportunity for them to receive instructions that will support rigorous Common Core standards that were recently adopted. The assessments that are provided in this curriculum align to the same assessments that students will receive in the SBAC testing at the end of the school year. The integrated and designated ELD component will highly support our English language learners as they improve their, that are essential to their academic success. And lastly, the Benchmark Advance will provide a highly rigorous curriculum. Can I keep going?
Okay, go ahead and
I'm
finish.
sorry. Okay. Through the opportunities for differentiated small group instruction and exposure to science and social studies content. In the 6-week pilot, I was able to watch as my students were introduced to annotating text, and were able to close with a clear understanding of how important their new skill is and the success that they are able to find with text with their new skill.
Thank you.
The high school piloting teachers chose my perspectives because we were excited about the opportunities the curriculum would provide for students to grapple with diverse and relevant and rigorous texts organized around engaging themes. The comprehensiveness of the program is going to support student achievement, but also develop teacher capacities to be able to bring the Common Core state standards to life.
Thank you.
For our next steps, we have several items to share. So first of all, we have publisher-provided professional learning days, which are going to be available to all teachers by grade level before the end of the school year, over the summertime, and during the fall. We will revise the ELA-ELD curriculum maps to take into account the new adoptions and new materials. We will also work with our labor partners on looking at the assessments which are embedded within the curriculum materials to make sure that we can monitor the progress of our students effectively. And finally, we'll develop and provide workshops for parents and families. And we're now available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Turkey. Do we have any public comment?
We have one from Greg Young.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
Good evening, Superintendent Aguilar, Board President Ryan, and board members. As he said, my name is Greg Young. I'm a teacher. I taught 170 high school students through this pilot program. I'm very pleased with this program and with the materials we have to work with. My students found the Pearson book to be engaging, challenging, and relevant. They noticed and appreciated the diversity of the material and of the authors. They pointed that out to me. As their teacher, I appreciated the depth and the breadth of the material and the amount of support that was provided, not only what they could put in their hands, but what was provided online. The online portion of this adoption is extensive and easily navigated by the students and old teachers such as myself. It provided equitable access to ELD students and the ELA students. Each lesson was so crafted that there is whole class learning, group learning, and individual independent learning for each unit. It is set up that they're constantly going back into the material, rereading it, and responding to it at multiple levels. I highly recommend this program. It is the best tool to put in the hands of your teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With no further public comments, we're going to take questions from board members. Board Member Cochran. Board Member Hanson.
Thank you very much. So this looks like a great process. So thank you for presenting it. My first question really is just looking at the timeline. I think it was page 3. This when the state completed their programs November of 2015, and then we started ours May 2017. Maybe you can explain the timeline of It's one of the previous slides.
Yes.
This slide. So is it a normal amount of time lag? Is that part of the program, or what would there be a normal 2-year gap before the state does their process before we start our process?
Right. So with the implementation of Common Core, there have been some changes in cycles of adoption. I don't know if you recall, but during the economic downturn, the state suspended adoptions of instructional materials. And so as those came back into, the state began adopting, they determined that districts could adopt off cycle, right? There's no mandatory adoption cycle. So during the 14-15 school year, we were actually adopting mathematics materials. Okay, so we are establishing, now coming back into a situation where we are beginning to adopt new materials. So we determined that math, with the major changes in math, that we should adopt that first, and now we're doing the ELA.
So what you're saying is you can do one at a time because it's a large process.
It's a large process, and it's an expenditure. It's quite a major expenditure as well.
Well, that was my second question. So how many books do we buy for $7 million? I mean, that would be useful just in future ones, just to lay out, so I have an understanding of what we're buying with that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so we are just beginning the process of engaging with the publishers around just the cost of materials. It's interesting that, since we adopted mathematics, costs have increased back since 14 and 15. And so we have to negotiate. The publisher gives us a price, and then we go back and forth with them around what is it that we can actually do. So in our calculations, just from what we've received so far, for about $7 million, we're looking at probably, I don't know how big our K6 system is right now. Like K6, and probably not quite as much as that for 712.
So $7 million buys us half, K through 6, and then it could be an additional $7 million for the remainder?
No, because the materials are, the way that they're packaged. I'll give you an example. At the elementary level, you have a lot of ancillary materials. For students at the secondary, I think it's two volumes. So there's a difference. It's not quite as much at the secondary.
So it's less expensive for the secondary?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So $7 million doesn't do what we need to do. That's our first tranche of
we're not
purchasing.
sure. Like I said, we're going to be negotiating with our publishers to see, where we can get that.
We do that as a single district, or do we partner with other districts?
So we're a pretty large system. So if you think about the size of Sac City, we have some leverage in terms of our size.
Are we partnering with other districts, or are we doing it by ourselves?
We're doing it by ourselves.
Okay.
Yes.
So do we look around to see if there's other school districts that are wanting to buy the same textbooks, so we maybe could partner, with some other ones? I mean, we're 10th or 12th largest. I mean, we are very large, but I can imagine if we partnered with Fresno or San Diego or somebody else that might be looking at something.
Right. So in this particular adoption process, we did look at what surrounding districts were doing, and as well as districts, say, within other systems, and a lot of them have already adopted ELA. So we're kind of in a space where it's us. I'm sure there are others, but just in our partner districts, they've adopted.
Okay. And then do we buy paper books, or are we doing anything electronic?
So all of the material, well, I can't say all the materials, but there's an electronic or digital component to the materials that Mr. Young spoke of. And so there's some of the resources are actually digital as well as print. And our exploration of, should we do digital, should we do print? There's not much of a cost difference in doing one over the other, but in the adoption of the print materials, you do get some digital aspects.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We have a comment or question from Board Member Wu.
Thank you, President Ryan. First question, you identified LCFF funding and lottery funding for the textbooks. Was there any of the Common Core block grants available for the textbooks as well?
So we actually used those funds for the math adoption, and then the state discontinued Common Core funding.
Okay. Then, as back of the fumbling around with the pages, the next steps are to develop and provide workshops for parents and guardians. Before we get to that next step, then I was kind of wondering what the success of your feedback was, either from the computer kiosks or paper feedback, and what was the success in terms of the different languages you sent it out to?
I'll let Ms. Leah Granda speak to that. She led this effort.
Thank you.
The replies through the kiosk and through paper were minimal. 29 replies to the kiosk in English only and none in Spanish and Chinese. And slightly leaning toward Benchmark over Reach for Reading, which was the other materials on display.
The reason why I ask is because I hope that we'll have a different strategy when we go out for parent engagement later on, because the strategy that we used to solicit comments going in weren't as successful as we would have hoped.
Thank you, Board Member Wu. I just had a question for Dr. Taylor and Mr. Turkey, and I want to thank the educators who have given additional time to help pilot and review the materials so that we could, in fact, adopt the best possible curriculum moving forward to meet the needs of our students. And my question for you, Dr. Taylor, and also Mr. Turkey, is around the 61 reviewers and 47 piloting teachers and 17 piloting teachers and 17 in grades 7th through 12th in the 9th schools. How were they selected? I am curious as to, in a district as diverse as Sacramento City Unified School District, did we ensure that we were intentionally selecting educators who reflected the diversity of the district, the life experiences, understanding from a cultural perspective how curriculum might meet the needs of certain populations and not all populations?
Yes, so and that's actually outlined in board policy, that we select teachers who have the plethora of experiences of the students in our district, and so there was intentionality around selecting educators who were not just mirrored the demographics of the district, but also the experiences. So our special educators, our teachers who teach English learners. We had new teachers, we had experienced teachers, because we wanted to kind of gain a sense of like how well did these materials support someone with very little experience as well as someone who had a lot of experience. So it was a lot of thought that went into the piloting, as well as the committee that selected the materials.
And my final question is, how will you communicate these changes in materials with families?
So, just kind of piggybacking off of Board Member Wu's question, what we want to do is just lessons learned, right, from our math workshops. Like we had workshops here at CERNA, and some of those were not very well attended, and we went out to regional workshops. And so, thinking that we may want to build a cadre of parents and leaders from sites who could then work with other parents at sites around just understanding material. So trying a different strategy than maybe what we tried with other instructional materials adoptions, but making it more localized so that it's not just CERNA teams going out, but that sites can actually facilitate their own sessions with parents and then some parent-to-parent exchanges.
That's encouraging. Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor. Our final question comes from Board Member Cochran.
Yes, I do have my light on now, and thank you. I'd like to echo Member Ryan's comments, but I particularly would like to thank the teachers that piloted this, because I don't know if my fellow members are aware, often you spend years mastering a curriculum and honing it and fine-tuning it, and then you're asked suddenly to take on a whole new curriculum, probably for just a semester, and dive into it and be able to present it to students in a very meaningful manner. So thank you. And I also, often when we have pilots, they change when you actually come to the actual texts that are adopted. So are we looking at these being changes when we actually adopt the text as well, or are we set to go?
From understanding, meaning changes from the publisher?
Yeah,
or?
often.
Yes. So, just recognizing one thing that we want to do as we negotiate is like as updates are made, like we get those updates, and just recognizing too that, we believe that we've selected a set of materials that is extremely strong, but as teachers begin to use them even, we may find like there's gaps that we may need to fill.
Thank you.
But cognizant of that.
Thank you so much for your efforts. At this time, I'm going to entertain a motion.
Moved.
Second. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we leave, I do want to also thank the teachers who have participated in this instructional materials adoption. Just the number of hours that went into the analysis, the thoughtfulness that went into like reviewing the materials. They just did that on top of their day jobs, and they're just really to be commended. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We're moving on to item 9.3, which we're taking up. Again, it looks like we have everyone here at this point. We're going to hear approving Father Keith B. Kenny's grade restructuring. We're going to hear from Dr. Taylor once again, Mary Harden Young, and Principal Gail Johnson. Looking striking in her pink coat.
I just said the same thing. Well, good evening again, Board President Ryan, members of the board, and Superintendent Aguilar. I'm going to be presenting our staff recommendation for grade restructuring at Father Keith B. Kenny, and we're joined tonight by Gail Johnson, who is the principal at Father Keith B. Kenny, and Dr. Iris Taylor, our chief of academics. Gail will be available to answer questions and further direct information tonight. We're also joined in the audience by Assistant Principal Felicia Thomas Hill, who is welcome to come up front as well if she would like to. The superintendent and staff tonight are recommending a grade reconfiguration for Father Keith B. Kenny. That is the elimination of 7th and 8th grade based on low enrollment and the resulting inability to provide a rich middle school experience for our students at Father Keith B. Kenny. As background, Keith B. Kenny operated as a K-6 elementary school from 1993 until 2012. They added 7th grade in 2012 and 8th grade the following year. You can see on this slide the enrollment trends since they have opened. As you can see, enrollment has remained low since its implementation. And if you see this year, our total enrollment in 7th and 8th grade is only 33 students, 13 in 8th grade, 20 in 7th grade. We know that a student's middle school experience plays a pivotal role in meeting our guiding principle of all students being given an equal opportunity to graduate with the greatest number of post-secondary choices from the widest array of options. A rich middle school experience includes opportunities and options for success. Those would include offerings like art, second language, music, sports, robotics, after-school programming. It would also include the ability to offer enrichment and intervention in content areas such as math. Because of the small number of students and staff, KBK lacks the ability to offer the things that we just listed. They're not able to offer electives, extracurricular activities or sports, or enrichment. They also have struggled with consistency of qualified staff in middle school content areas, specifically math and science, where we have a long-term sub again this year. Allowing the rising Father Keith B. Kinney 7th and 8th graders to enroll in their feeder middle schools or the middle school of their choice will afford these students the array of opportunities that will prepare them to be successful in high school and beyond. Therefore, our recommendation is to close the 7th and 8th grade middle school programming at Father Keith B. Kinney at the end of this school year and reopen the school in 2018-19 as a K-6 elementary school. We'd like to share a little timeline of work that has already begun and has happened and work that is yet to come. Our superintendent and many of our central staff members and Board President Ryan met with staff earlier in March to share the recommendation and to gather input and insights that they would have that could help guide the journey. Principal Johnson afterwards made personal phone calls to each and every 6th and 7th grade family, sharing with them the decision and the recommendation that would be coming to the board tonight, and also inviting them to a community meeting. That community meeting was held on March 7th. At that time, again, we had several central office staff members, our superintendent and Board President Ryan, who visited with families, shared the tough but necessary decision. Principal Johnson welcomed everyone. We also had our 2 feeder middle schools available to address families and to answer questions. And we also had the enrollment center staff there who could walk families through open enrollment and actually do the enrollment process. Additionally, site visits were scheduled at Kit Carson and Cal for families to be able to see if the schools were a good fit for them. There was personal follow-up with each of the family members and with students within their classes. And students will be given priority in the open enrollment process, so their first choice will be their given choice. I'm going to ask Principal Johnson to step up for just a minute and address the community meeting and feedback that she might have had from parents and students.
Good evening, Superintendent Aguilar, Board Member Ryan, all of Board President Ryan, and other board members. It was a tough decision. It's a tough situation to be in, but we have to do what's best for kids. And surprisingly, out of all the parents we called, we reached all but 4 parents, and we've made multiple phone calls. No one expressed total disappointment. The change is hard, but they understand the reason for it, and they know that we want just what's best for their students. All of the conversations we've had with students, now this is a surprising fact. After we had all the phone calls on Friday, and we called every parent except before, we called them back over the weekend, we called back on Monday, and we also have a couple of interpreters on site that also made phone calls to our parents who did not speak English. So we did everything that we could, and then of course, then the word traveled with students. But on the weekend, I was concerned how students would feel on Monday. So I was bracing myself for possibly maybe some tears, some major disappointments. And one student, the first response was, and I met with every grade level, this is the day we were waiting for. So all the apprehension I had about students leaving, because we love our kids, we protect our kids, as all of us do at our schools. We were really concerned about their feelings, about having to make a move, especially our 7th graders who are already there and planning on promoting next year out of 8th grade. But all of the 8th graders, they signed, I said, who's excited? They all signed their names. So I think it made it a lot easier for families as well because their students welcomed the opportunity. And the opportunity came in the realm of having opportunities to be in leadership, opportunities to be in sports, opportunity to have some electives. You know, we have to give students a well-rounded education if we expect them to be able to manipulate and to maneuver in this complex world that we live in. As much as we want to keep them contained and protected, we give them a disservice when we don't prepare them for the real world. And with all the complexities of what's going on in society, they need that opportunity to spread their wings. We know they'll be protected. We're all looking out for them, but we know it's the best decision for kids. And what I always say, and many of you know, my children attended Keith B. Kinney. It's been hard over the last few years to watch our students not have what they need. And if my child were there, what would I want for my child? And that's how we make all of our decisions at Keith B. Kinney. They deserve the opportunity to have the exposure, the enrichment, to find out what some of their other interests and talents are, to tap into some of their gifts. Because as we know, education and even academic achievement is based on having all those other things in place to help motivate you. We look at attendance. Those things help us to come to school every day. The value of sports, the value of clubs. It also enhances their social emotional growth. And so as much as we know this is difficult and probably a big change for our parents, we were pleasantly surprised that we didn't have anyone that was upset with us, discouraged by us, or disappointed in what we're trying to do for our students.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Principal Johnson. Do we have any public comments at this time?
No public comment.
Okay, Principal Johnson, can I have you stay for one moment? Can you please also share a little bit about the teacher response and what will happen to the teachers from the 7th and 8th grade?
Right. We will not lose any of our teachers because we do have 2 vacancies, so teachers will not be affected in terms of staffing. All of the teachers were in favor when understanding what our students need. You know, it's going to be hard for one of our teachers who've had the kids in 3rd grade, 4th grade, 6th grade, and now 7th grade. And it's harder for her, but she also believes in what's best for students, and she is supportive. But we will not lose any of our staff.
Thank you
unless
so
they
much.
choose to, go elsewhere.
Thank you, Principal Johnson. We have a comment from Board Member Vang.
So I just want to thank Mrs. Johnson and Mary Hardy-Young and President Ryan for doing your due diligence on the timeline on reaching out to parents. I think a big part of that, you're not hearing a lot of resistance because, it speaks to the work that you've done around this. I just had a few questions. The first one is I'm curious that I see here, I don't have the page number for the slide, that the, if the board decides to close the 7th and 8th grade, I wanted to know the distance between Father Keith McKinney and the other 2 middle school, Cal Middle and Kit Carson. Do we know what the distance is?
I don't have the exact mileage, but I would think it's maybe about 2 miles.
Which is less than 2 miles.
Less than 2 miles, okay.
And prior to us becoming a K-8 school, those were our neighborhood schools.
Got it. And then this question is mainly for district staff. Given that we're going to eliminate the 7th and 8th grade, I wanted to know what the district had planned regarding to the extra facilities, the classrooms, if Father Keith McKinney is planning to use those 2 classrooms. I'm kind of curious what the plans are for that.
Well, that's a very good question. I think we'll watch the growth at KBK. I'm sure that the rooms will not go unused. They're pretty packed as they are, so I'm sure that they will find a use for them for their K-6 students.
Okay.
What I will say for Board Member Vang is, we are doing weekly peace walks continuing in Oak Park, and enrollment in our neighborhood schools has been a challenge in Oak Park. So I would challenge, encourage, and respectfully invite my board members to join me in trying to enroll more students into our K-6 program at Father Keith B. Kinney, because there is no principal or team that will love those students more than this woman and her team.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Board Member Cochran. Oh, sorry, Board Member Hanson. Done that twice tonight.
Thank you. So, my question was around the enrollment. So do the families, so it's just those 2 schools, middle schools, that would be absorbing the students?
So we gave those families and students an option of any middle school program within our district. So some might have opened enrolled to Sutter or Fern-Bacon, depending on where they're traveling from currently. But the two middle schools that they would naturally feed into if KBK was not a K-8 would be Kit Carson International Academy and Cal Middle School.
Because I know Sutter is also very close, so I just want to make sure that's an option too for any family that wants to go there. So
It is.
surprised not to see them on the list.
And when speaking to a lot of our sixth grade parents, about 12 of them have already expressed interest that they had done open enrollment and they had other plans for next year.
You know, other plans
In
besides?
terms of our Sac City schools, yes.
I see. So I was wondering too, you know, because we have other schools that are in the area, charter schools, which could be an option for them, but I'm wondering where we think the students are going to be going to. If we're going to be losing people out of our public district.
We can certainly bring back to you the requests that are coming from the students at KBK, from the rising 7th graders and 8th graders, so that you will know where they enrolled.
Mm-hmm.
That would be an easy thing for us to do, or we could send it out in a board communication.
I'm going to, whatever school the families want to go to is what we should be supporting their option. And Cal Middle, which is in my area, will certainly be a welcoming site should they all choose to go there. Do we do transportation for students if it's 2 miles? I was just looking online and I'm not sure.
Or RT. Yeah, they typically take RT.
Really? Okay. Very well. Thank you.
We have a question from Board Member Wu.
Thank you, President Ryan. Principal Johnson, I was here when we made the decision, and we had such high hopes, and it was a grand experiment. And I'm glad that we have looked back and decided, you know what, we'll just have to go back to K-6. This is the right decision. It'll be the best for our children, and I'm thankful that you're at the helm to make both those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Wu. Before I take a motion, I just want to say, you know, we have another comment now. Board Member Pritchett, a late comment.
I was waiting for everyone else to speak. I concur with my colleagues up here. I just did have a question in regards to facilities. And are we sure that, how many students are in your 7th and 8th grade programs currently?
8th grade, 33.
33. Okay, so we were able to absorb them into the other sites comfortably. Okay, that's all I had a question about. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Pritchett. I do want to thank Board Member Cochran and Board Member Hansen and acknowledge that the principals at your schools, Cal Middle and Kit Carson IB, were remarkable in coming out and speaking with our families. They stayed almost until 9 o'clock, I think, speaking with each and every family, offering with our enrollment center a seamless process for enrolling in those school sites, and really making students feel like they were wanted at those schools. I think the biggest debate I was hearing was a disagreement from students and some of their parents about whether or not they were going to go to Cal or Kit Carson, and that's a good problem to have. I also want to say for Principal Johnson, I know that you have been grappling with this decision for the last couple of years. I think it's a testament to your leadership and the relationship you have with the teachers, that while there was emotion, while you even got choked up, the teachers had complete faith in the decision, because, as you said, there is no amount of love that can make up for a lack of opportunity. And for those 33 7th and 8th graders, they were not having an opportunity for college prep, for electives, for sports, for enrichment. And so I believe that this is absolutely the right decision, and the parents in my community are also validating that decision and the grace with which you and your team have entered into this transition. So thank you so much. And with that, I am going to ask for a board motion. Second? Student preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstaining? None. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Item 9.5, approve 2017-18 second interim financial report.
Good evening, President Ryan, Superintendent Aguilar, members of the board. The goal of our presentation is to provide a brief budget update as of January 31st, as required by the second interim. We will cover Education Code 42130. We will cover the multi-year forecast and the fiscal condition of the district. In a nutshell, even as a second interim, our revenues are up. Our expenditures are greater than the increases in revenue, and our enrollment is steady. Through this process, we are required to present publicly what our district stands, and either a positive, qualified, or negative. Positive means we are able to meet our financial obligations for current year plus 2 years. Qualified, that we are able to meet current obligations, but we might not be one of the next 2 years. And negative, that we are not able to meet obligations for current year. Our certification tonight is a positive certification. However, we still have a structural deficit where our expenditures are greater than our ongoing revenues. The percentage of the revenues happen to be the same amount as they were in the first interim. The majority are from the local control funding formula. This is our general unrestricted funds. And then we have 11% from federal, and then 2% from local. And the other state are categorical funds. They are not included in the local control funding formula. So it's a little bit over $500 million. So what are the changes in the revenues compared from last year? The changes in the other state revenues, we had to adjust from what we thought we were going to receive the first interim and adopted budget. Those are grants that we, at this point in time, we're not expecting them to come to the district. How about expenditures? Unrestricted expenditures means that we can spend it anything that we want as long as it's legal for the district. 90% of those are in salaries and benefits. Last year was about 89%, so it'll be very, very consistent. So out of total, $300 million is in salary and benefits, and this includes statutory clause as pension clause, Social Security. That's the total compensation package. What has changed from that is very consistent from the first interim. The part that it changed is salaries and benefits. By this time, we have completed all our negotiations, all our settlements with all our bargaining units. And there's also some movement from books and supplies to other parts of the budget. The contributions from the general fund to other programs is the same $71 million. Those are contributions to special ed, and ongoing maintenance and operations. Ms. Gloria Chan will discuss the restricted part of the budget, and she will present the rest of the presentation.
Good evening, President Ryan, Superintendent Aguilar, and members of the board. We're moving from the unrestricted revenues to restricted resources. The restricted resources are monies given for a specific purpose. They must be self-sustaining. We plan on spending $195.3 million with restricted funds, of which 67% is used for salaries and benefits. The change between the first and second interim, the expenditures are decreased because as revenues are not expected to come in, we must decrease our expenditures as well. Also, carryovers such as Title I is being reallocated to other object codes as plans are implemented. Slide 11 shows how we plan on spending our money by function. Function describes the activities performed in order to accomplish a goal. We plan on spending $322.6 million for direct instruction and $77.2 million on instruction related functions. This is total instructional support of 76%, or $399.8 million. After many years of declining enrollment, we have leveled out over the last few years. We expect the district's enrollment to continue this steady pattern. However, if we can increase our enrollment, our ADA and funding goes up. Moving on to our unrestricted multi-year projections. As you can see on our net change fund balance, we continue our structural deficit. A structural deficit means our expenditures exceed our revenues. In 2018-19, we currently plan on overspending by $4.8 million, by 19-20 by $21.8 million. We are relying on fund balance for ongoing expenditures. We are currently certifying as positive. Once we are qualified, there is a bigger fiscal oversight from the Sacramento County Office of Education, and it will cost us more to sell bonds. Our projected costs exceed our projected revenues. Required payments for pensions and health care costs, combined with the leveling off of funding increases, will make it challenging to fund essential academic services that are needed to ensure all students graduate with the greatest number of post-secondary choices from the widest array of options. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take questions from the board, Alex, do we have any public comment?
No public comments.
All right. Are there any comments from the board? Member Hanson.
Thank you, Interim President Wu. I had a question. We had a comment from one of the SCTA representatives that our expenditures for administrative was 3 times higher than hiring certificated employees. That was a shocking allegation. I was curious what your reaction to that would be.
Yeah, yes, I can. The second annual, there are some required forms that we need to complete, and we need to say how many FT we have last year compared to this year. So we have new positions, new FT, but most of them, we're doing some research, are vacancies, so like we didn't have the position last year, but it was filled this year. It shows us as new, but it's probably like a filling vacancy. So including in that number, yeah, there are a couple, they are new, but many of them will be vacancies, and we are doing some research one by one, how many are filling vacancies and what really are new. And they are a smaller number, they're a smaller administration, so when you increase a number, that could be like, it could be like a greater percentage.
Right.
Yeah, but that's what it is.
So of the 18 new administrative positions, how many of those were just vacancies that were being filled? Do you know?
Yeah, that's why we are doing some research. We're working with HR. I know how many were. I don't know exactly how many. We can get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think that'd be good, just so we can make sure the record.
And actually, that Superintendent Aguilar asked us that question, so we will do the research. Yeah.
Okay.
We will do that.
And I also was noting that our revenues were a bit down, but we lowered our expenditures even more than our budget was reduced. So I just want to make sure I was seeing that correctly as well. So on page 6,
on slide 6,
our revenues had shrunk a total of $3.4 million. I guess I was interested in why the state's number, that's down almost 5% from the first interim.
Yeah.
Is there something significant that changed?
Yeah, so when we adopt the budget, the first interim, if you remember back in the first interim, we actually increased the first interim by $25 million because we thought like throughout the year, grants come through the district. And now that we know, like as of today, that we overestimated by that, and so we need to adjust that down. And those are based on the history that we did during the last 3 years. We're trying to And that's the reduction on the other state revenue.
Okay, and then on page 10, it shows that our total expenditures are down almost 6 million, but our budget only decreased 3.4. So are we banking 2.6 million? Am I back into reserves, or am I looking at numbers apples to apples, or?
Release some vacancies.
Yeah. So, but at this time too, you look into that. We have adjusted by this time of the year. We are 3 months away from the year in closing. We have released vacancies that we don't have anymore, and also we adjust the books and supplies. We're trying to be more close to what we expect it to be at the end of the year. So that's why we did that.
Okay. All right. Very well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hanson.
Great questions.
Are there any more questions? I note that this is a conference to action item, so I will entertain a motion to move from conference to action.
Second.
Move it to conference to action.
I have a motion. I have a second. Do I ask for a student preferential vote on this item as well?
Yes.
Student Member Nguyen, do you have a preferential vote?
Yes, aye.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Abstentions? Motion carries. We're into action. Entertain a motion to move this item.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. Student Member Nguyen, do you vote aye? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on then to item 9.6, approve the nutrition services price increase. This is an action item. Miss Allen, Miss Flores. Can't take the stress.
So good evening, President Ryan, members of the board, and Superintendent Aguilar. Joining me tonight is Diana Flores, our Director of Nutrition Services, and we are here tonight to bring a proposal to you for consideration of a price increase for our lunch prices. I'm going to have Diana start because she gets the difficult stuff. I'll take the easy stuff.
I don't know how the clicker works. Thank you very much, President Ryan, Superintendent Aguilar, and members of the board. We're going to go over a few things first before we get into the presentation tonight. The background and the history about the National School Lunch Program. I'm going to go over that just slightly. Some federal regulations regarding school meal prices. Some nutrition services facts regarding our school meal program here at Sacramento City Unified, including breakfast and lunch. Our current pricing, our proposal for the next school year, the fiscal impacts to a school meal price increase, and our next steps. So first I'd like to explain a little bit about the National School Lunch Program. It's fitting that we come after a presentation on the general fund here at Sacramento City Unified. We are a self-funded program. We don't take a penny from the general fund. We receive reimbursement for every meal that we serve. Most of the reimbursement is a federal reimbursement. We get a small state reimbursement for every meal. There are 3 different eligibility types in the school meal program. There's the free, the reduced price meal, and the paid lunch. So we're going to talk about each one of those. The federal regulations require that school lunch prices are required to be equal to or greater than the reimbursement for a free lunch. Currently, the federal reimbursement for a free lunch is $3.25. Students that pay full price for lunch at Sac City Unified in the elementaries pay $2, and at the secondaries pay $2.50.
Speak up just a little bit, please.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Currently at Sacramento City Unified, the paid lunch price is $2 for elementary, $2.50 for secondary. Currently, a free meal subsidizes a paid meal because we receive a higher reimbursement for that free meal. Nutrition Services offers here at Sacramento City Unified a universal free breakfast program in all 80 schools. That includes some charter schools. We serve 11,100 breakfasts per day, 8,813 free eligible, 1,015 reduced eligible, 1,272 paid eligible students. We provide a free lunch to those students. Breakfast, a free breakfast to those students, but we are not reimbursed for those. That is at all 80 schools, so 1,272 breakfasts. The annual cost for providing a universal free breakfast program at Sacramento City is $447,619. We are not proposing any changes to this program. We offer free and reduced lunch at all 80 schools as well, including charters. Serve 25,604 lunches per day. 19,943 are free eligible. 2,284 are reduced eligible. 1,192 are paid status eligible. However, we are not reimbursed for those students in half our schools, 40 schools. There's no change proposed to those schools and that program. Reduced price meals at Sacramento City Unified, currently we do not even charge the reduced cost. We are allowed to charge 40 cents and we don't, we waive it. There's a cost associated with that as well. Paid lunches at non-eligible schools are the lunches we're speaking about today. That's approximately 2,185 students that eat per day at Sacramento City Unified. Those students pay $2 for lunch at an elementary and $2.50 at a secondary. The last school meal price increase was 5 years ago in 2013-14. That was a 75-cent price increase. At that time, we were only charging $1.25 for elementary and $1.75 for secondary. Currently, in the past 2 years, Nutrition Services has been operating at a deficit. In 15-16, it was $840,960, and then last year it was $326,635. The pricing at the area schools, including Twin Rivers and San Juan Unified, are on the next slide. You will notice we are the lowest price school lunch program of any school in the area, and we don't charge anything for breakfast.
So our proposal for you tonight to consider is, again, no change to the free program. For the reduced program, what we would like to do is discontinue waiving the 40-cent meal price. So basically, we would be going from 0 to 40 cents. It applies to about 40 school sites in the district and about 2,284 students. In addition, we would like to propose an increase to the paid meal price of 75 cents. This would apply to the approximately 2,185 students who eat lunch daily. We would like to begin the increase for the school year in August, late August. The annual fiscal impact to the Nutrition Services budget, if we did this, would be roughly about $304,000 for the paid lunch increase, and then discontinuing waiving the 40-cent would bring in about $95,000 for a total of just under $400,000 annually. Obviously, this would fluctuate a little bit depending on how many kids are eating. So our next steps, we do have a student handbook. We would update that to reflect the new prices. We do that in spring, coming up here in a couple months. We would inform our families via the menus that we put out monthly menus. So in May and June, we would post a notice that school price lunches will be going up next year. And then right before school starts, we would do an email and a phone call reminder as well. That concludes our presentation.
Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
Okay, we have board member questions. Our first question is from board member Hanson, followed by board member Cochran. Board member Cochran, you left your light on. Board member Cochran.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Allen, can you go back to the deficit slide? So at the bottom, what did we do differently between those 2 years to reduce that deficit?
Really worked on some food cost issues that we were having in the prior year. Yes, it was mostly food cost issues, to be honest with you.
A lot of operational changes as well. We now go pick up some of our food instead of having it delivered. So Diana's done a wonderful job of looking at those kind of operational expenditures and have decreased them. And we'll continue to decrease that cost as we move towards the central kitchen.
Okay, I appreciate that.
They used to cut out from the fund balance, we're able to operate that.
Thank you. So this is a discussion that I think the board needs to consider before we actually vote on this. It's my personal opinion that we should not charge for the reduced lunch. I think people who have that need are already struggling. But if you're paying for your lunch, 40 cents extra is probably not going to break the budget because you're already paying full price, I assume, to get a school lunch. So I'm guessing that families that are doing that could probably absorb the costs. I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I don't want to burden a family that may really need to have services of meals at school with extra costs, even though it's not significant, I know, but I'd like to keep it without cost.
Board Member Vang. Oh, Board Member Pritchett.
I wholeheartedly agree with Member Cochran. I only have one question, and I wanted to know what is the income threshold for the reduced lunch program?
Eligibility table, it's not just an income threshold, it's based on family size too, so it's a table. I can get that for you.
44,900. Oh, she had it right there. Okay. Yeah, that's not a lot of money for a family to afford at all. Yeah, I agree that we should probably have a deeper conversation about, raising it, the reduced lunch for our low-income families, and think about raising it for our regular price lunches.
So we have no other board member comments. I do want to mention that board members Wu, Vang, and myself have heard this in policy committee, and this has been a conversation over the last year. I am very comfortable with the increased meal price for people who can afford to pay, which still brings us below the regional average for our meals. I am less comfortable with requiring an increase of 40 cents for a low-income family. And so I am in agreement with my fellow colleagues that, I appreciate universal breakfast for all, but I would rather have people who could afford breakfast pay a little bit so that people who can afford 40 cents a meal pay nothing, right? I mean, if that were to be a way we offset cost. So since this is going to be an action item tonight, I would personally like to entertain a motion that we amend the current proposal to approve the increase in meal price to 75 cents by 75 cents for the 2,185 students identified, but we do not approve the waiving the 40-cent meal price for our lower income families. Do we have other comments? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Student preferential vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to item 10.0, consent agenda. Do we have a motion? Second? All those in favor? Aye. None opposed? Any opposed? None. Okay.
I assume we had a preferential vote?
Student preferential vote.
I vote yes on all open session items included in the consent agenda.
Beautiful. Love it. Item 11.0, business and financial information, receiving information. 11.1, business and financial reports. 11.2, receiving the Head Start, early Head Start expansion reports. Item 12.0, future board meeting dates and location. Our next board meeting will be held on April 5th, just following spring break at 4:30 for closed session, 6 p.m. open session at the Cerna Center. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?